Hello, everyone. Thank you for being with us today. Um, my name is Veronica Ramos, and I am the Government Relations Director with MOB Families for El Paso. Just to give you a little bit of background about MOB, it was created by two amazing moms that grew up here in the Sun City, Layla Zaydan Safa and Adrian Moody. They created this group with a mission to work with local leaders and to bring more family-friendly amenities to our city. And ever since they started, they've been doing just that. I direct the MOB Get Out the Vote program, where we've registered many people to vote while also increasing awareness of elections and the candidates that are running for our local offices. At the local level, we advocate for more amenities and the splash parks, which led to over $1 million being allocated to them. We also helped to revitalize Escalante Park by fundraising, again, over $1 million to build an all abilities playground. And we'll be celebrating a ribbon cutting ceremony at the end of this year. And at the state level, we were able to draft a bill that passed in the House to help make voting easier for families. Today, we are going to have a forum with the candidates of the County Commissioners Precinct 4, and these are the Republican candidates. And thank you so much for being here with us. We have Adam Fatouche and Mr. Victor Navarrete. And just a little bit of background on what the county commissioners do. They typically are in charge of buildings and bridges, also any county buildings, public health, public safety, running elections, collecting taxes, and also in our county parks and recreation. Okay, so without further ado, we're going to start with Mr. Adam Fatouche, and he's going to give his opening statement.
All right, hello everybody. First, I want to say thank you for having me here. So 2 minutes isn't a lot of time, so I'm going to go ahead and get into it. I'm going to speak fast, so please try to stick with me. First, I have 3 things that I'm really looking to focus on, although there's a ton of other things. One of them is territory equality. So I love what Moms on Board has been able to do with being able to revitalize Escarte Park. I think that's great, but I do find it unfortunate that it took such a major project for the Lower Valley to get attention. The Lower Valley for a long time was very neglected, and you see that as well in Precinct 4 quite a bit, because you have Northwest and Northeast El Paso that are highly neglected, especially, let's say, Cañetillo, for example. Cañetillo has been overrun with flooding for over almost 2 decades, and only time you really hear of it is around election time. But once the election's over, really nothing gets done until the next election. They talk about it again. I think it's kind of criminal that they barely put together a committee last year to try to get it fixed. That's just one of many issues. Also here in Northeast, for example, Northeast, the only time, that's where I live, you'll see construction crews is whenever they're building 54 or adding through 375 as a way to get out of Northeast. So essentially it's like taxpayers are paying for people to leave their area. Another big thing is integrity. I think there's a lot of integrity issues here in El Paso with leadership. I think there's a lot of things that are wrong. I'm not going to go into much detail here, wouldn't be appropriate, but I think whenever you look at, let's just talk about pay, for example, the per capita income here in El Paso is about $20,000, just over it. Well, in El Paso, unless you have a platform or something like that where you can contribute heavily, a lot of times you won't get a voice. Well, with a per capita income of $20,000, you have a lot of El Pasoans, hundreds of thousands of El Pasoans who don't have a voice here. And that's something that I wish to change. I want to make sure that all El Pasoans are given input and they have a voice here, which leads me to my third one, and really important, is transparency. You'll see a lot of times that leadership won't speak on much at all here in El Paso, especially unless they're forced to. And I think one of the biggest examples would be their salaries. Let's go ahead and bring that out. So if you look at it like this and you put it all together, our county commissioners right now, each of them make over $100,000 each at least. And with a per capita, they're making 5 times what most El Pasoans make. I think a lot of El Pasoans don't even realize that. And if you go and you ask El Pasoans what a county commissioner is, most of them don't even know what they are or what they do. I know that from experience, because whenever I told people I was running, they said, "That's great. What is it?" So I mean, that they're making that much and people aren't even aware of their duties and what they are and what they do. That's a intentional failure by leadership. So I want to put it this way. This is city and county together, and this is how I'll close it off. I think a lot of El Pasoans don't realize when you take your four county commissioners, your county judge, your city manager, and your city attorney, you're looking plus benefits, you're looking at almost $2 million right there. I don't think that that's right. So I think there's a lot of things.
Thank you, Mr. Fatouche. And we also have Mr. Victor Navarrete III, and if you could give your opening statement.
Absolutely. Good evening, everybody. Thank you so very much for having us on today. I'm going to use my time very wisely. I had something in mind, but after having researched exactly what Moms on Board does, I'm going to change everything up. I'll tell you very quickly about me. So I'm a lifelong El Pasoan. I'm a father, husband. I grew up in the Lower Valley, a graduate of Ballard High School, a graduate of UTEP with a BA in psychology. And come May, I will have a master's in business executive leadership. I'm also an ordained pastor through the El Paso Baptist Association since 2014. But with all that boring stuff out of the way, let me get to what I'm really dying to talk to you guys about. My only daughter is a special needs child. She has Angelman syndrome. And since years back, my wife and I had looked everywhere, trying to figure out where we could take her for entertainment. We wanted to do Disneyland, but it was just too much overload on sensory perception and such. I'm sure you're all familiar with it. So one of the initiatives that we had in our heart was to pretty much work on something as similar as to what you guys have already done. So when I researched what you guys have done, I'm amazed by what you did with the Escárate Park revitalization. I think that the Commissioner's Court were like considering name changes, if I'm not mistaken, recently. And I'm surprised they haven't reached out to you guys to really decide what the name should be. Having the All Abilities Park is just like a godsend for us. With the families that we talk to daily who have special needs children, this is literally, again, a godsend. So I commend you guys for doing that. And that's basically the same spirit that I'm using for my candidacy. My frustrations with the state of the world have a limit, and that's why I've thrown my hat in the ring to actually be proactive and not reactive in the things we do. And even the smallest little things, as we live our lives through this dark storm, it's always nice to see a ray of sunshine, as simple as just having a place for a child to go have a good time on the weekends. So thank you for having me here, and thank you for everything you all do.
Thank you so much, Mr. Navarrete. So we're going to go on with our question for today. We want to thank you both for being here again and just educating our group about who you are and why you're running. So our first question is, Mob has worked tirelessly for 3 years, raising money to bring 3 All Abilities playgrounds to the County of El Paso parks. Construction began this year in Fabens, Risinger, and we've also had one at Escárate Park. How will your goals as a county commissioner help with family-friendly amenities, including the parks, especially maintaining and revitalizing those parks in the county? Also, what advice do you have for mob members who want to be more involved in that type of process? And we're going to go ahead and Mr. Fatouche, if you could answer the question.
Okay, so first off, I think that what y'all do is wonderful. And actually, I would like to see more of your work around all of El Paso. I think that if we cut down on frivolous spending, which is what I think, and I won't go into detail, but I think that there's money to be spent in more proper ways. And I think actually being able to fund mob more would be a great way to spend some of that money that you see where a lot of unnecessary spending is being done on certain projects that they decide to do that are really unnecessary. I think that mob is a perfect example of something that I would love to do with that money. I think that being able to allow, when you have your special needs parks and things of that nature, that's great. I think that you could even do smaller parks all over town. So much like y'all did with the splash pads and things, you could actually have, your main central park there in Escante, but that's not available to everybody. But if there was more funding available from the county, then we could do smaller parks in all parts of town. Like, again, like what you did with the splash pads, we were able to put up, y'all were able to put up, what, 7 splash pads, right? So, I mean, that's great. I mean, if we could have a bunch of multiple parks around, I think that'd be wonderful. So I think that there's money to be put there. It just needs to be allocated correctly. I think that as far as getting in touch with Mob, to be honest, I was not super familiar with y'all until I received this email. So speaking on my behalf, I think that there could be more part from the city and county to do more promotion of y'all and with y'all and work with y'all, much like Mr. Navarrete just said that, you know, I just lost my train of thought, but how he was speaking to, you know, how y'all should be able to have part in naming Escarte Park. I agree with that. I totally agree with that, because y'all are a major part of this entire revitalization. So I will totally back him on something like that. I think it's great. So I think that organizations such as yourselves and, you know, other organizations, I think that the city and the county should be backing y'all way more than they are. And I only say that because I wasn't aware of y'all until recently. And I think that there's an opportunity there to do more for your organization to help more children, as y'all are trying to do. So I think there's a lot of opportunity there. And I think that they should get behind y'all and help push y'all up and raise y'all up. So that's how I feel in the situation.
Thank you so much for your answer, Mr. Fatouche. And we'll go on to Mr. Navarrete. I'll restate the question. So
I think I got it, Veronica. I'm
got
good.
it? Okay.
Unless you want to repeat it for everyone else.
No, you're okay.
So the 3 parks that you guys have already helped establish is a wonderful thing. That's monumental. I only had obviously 2 minutes for my introduction, so I didn't get to include everything, but the back end of my story that I shared with you guys is that my wife and I have taken my daughter Vivian to Morgan's Wonderland in San Antonio on numerous occasions, which is, again, is a bigger scale park for special needs kids. I would like to see something similar like this to pretty much just piggyback off what you guys have already accomplished and done so well. Maybe just expanding what we already have or something entirely new. And if I'm actually elected to this position, then I would imagine I'd have probably a little more, I guess, influence reaching out to other counties, in this case, Behar County in the San Antonio area, to see what worked for them so we can compare best practices and continue doing what you guys have been doing so well. As far as funding is concerned, I mean, I'm with Adam. You guys have advocates in us. I mean, what the things that you do is just amazing. So there would be no issue there. What I'd like to see, though, is perhaps maybe a higher allocation on the budget for public works, some other items as well that are related, health and wellness. But I think maybe just reassessing how we can do things better. I know that the county and the city have already assisted with these projects, not to mention the private sector. But I think it would be the role of the county to act as a planter where we can pretty much launch projects, sites, and this is beyond just parks, all ability parks, as wonderful as they are, we could consider other things for families, and then pretty much leave it to self-sustain itself and then continue to duplicate it more and more. And then finally, one final point before I run out of time, I think to complete my suggestion, to complete the mission that you guys have set before yourselves, is I think choosing an appropriate name that could actually span beyond the El Paso Southwest region, that would actually attract and draw more people from other areas, would probably be the best thing to do. So me personally, I'm not convinced that Escarte is the best name if we want to achieve that, but I think I would love to hear what your advice would be around that particular subject.
Thank you, Mr. Navarrete. We're going to take questions from our group, and just give me.
Yeah, no questions just yet. I guess all the families are making dinner and listening to us, but I will pin this on the top of the page and it'll be on our website too. And we'll keep promoting the candidates and get out the vote stuff. So go ahead with the closings, I guess, right, Veronica?
Great, thank you. And so we're gonna go ahead and go on with the closing statements of each candidate. And so we're gonna start with Mr. Fatouche.
Okay, well, once again, I just want to say thank y'all for having me. I guess since there are no questions, I'll go ahead and say, if y'all do have any questions or anything after watching this that you would like to ask me or know anything about me, I'll give my contact info. You can reach me at arfatuch2 @yahoo.com. You can reach me at 915-303-6257, or you can type Adam Fatuch, Fatuch, into pretty much any search engine, and my information will pop up there for all my socials or my website, anything like that. Other than that, I would like to say thank you all very much for the opportunity. I really appreciate it more than I can ever express. It really means the world to me. I hope continued success, and I hope to work with y'all moving forward, especially after November. I hope we get to spend a lot of time together. So the best of luck to you all moving forward. Thank you. Mr. Navarrete, best of luck to you, sir.
Thank you so much for being here, Mr. Fatuch, with us, and just giving our group a chance to get to know you is very gracious of both of you. Thank you. And Mr. Navarrete?
Well, once again, guys, thank you very much, Veronica, especially for mediating this. I appreciate the time that you have made for us. Adam, it's good to be with you, actually, to hear you speak as well. I know we had just a few short minutes last time we were together. So in a nutshell, what I plan to do is to be a candidate that's going to keep in mind the future. I'm not interested in running for office so that I can be concerned with the next election. I'm interested in the next generation. And you guys have done so well with helping, assisting our families, particularly the youth. But I think the other component to that is also seeing those same kids all the way through adulthood. And I think one of our deficiencies in our community is that, for example, we send our kids to UTEP to acquire fine education. And once they're done, they're forced to leave to other towns because we have a shortfall of opportunities in the workforce for them. So it makes no sense for us to nurture, to raise our brightest and finest, and then send them off to other cities. So I think drawing in bigger business, regional companies that can actually provide us a tax base and alleviate our families is something that's big for me. And that's one of definitely the priorities that I'll be focusing on. So with that, thank you all ladies very much. And gentlemen, I know it's not just moms. And I look forward to seeing more great things out of your organization.
Thank you so much for being here with us and speaking with our group. We love having the candidates here to talk about who they are and what they would like to do in the future. And so we would really like to, again, thank you for being with us, and thank you